Hello everyone. My name is Swapnil Kaushal. I'm assistant professor from GIMS Greater Noida. So today our topic is programming style. So in this topic, I'll be discussing about the what is object-oriented procedural modeling and design techniques which is used. So this chapter is important as because it talks about how we are going to write the program, not just what we are going to write the program. So moving with our lecture outlines, so I'll be discussing about the object-oriented styles. Then in that I'll be discussing about the reusability and extensibility, robustness, and programming in the large. And I must say the programming in large, which is very crucial for the industry level projects. I'll be discussing in the further slides. What does that mean? Now, moving to the introduction part. So, as an experienced programmer, doesn't just write the code in order to solve today's problem. So, the code that the experienced programmer or the programmer who are well trained must write the code which can live beyond the immediate requirements. What do I mean by that is a good programming style ensures that the code is easy to read, easy to understand, and easy to modify. The reason behind is that once a code is written, it is not the case that it will not be used further. There might be cases that that code which is written previously, which is called as a legacy code, will be extended further and can be modified also. So yeah, so what do I mean by the reusability is, so reusability means writing the code once and using it multiple times. So there are two major types of reusability. um, First one is sharing the newly written code within the same program or same projects. Now, or second one includes reusing previously written code in new projects. Now, to achieve the reusability, we must follow a certain guidelines or certain set of rules. Like, for example, we must keep the methods coherent. What do I mean by keeping the method coherent is the task which the method is doing must be clear enough, and the method must be smaller. Uh, Reason for method being smaller is easier to reuse, and the method must be consistent as a similar behavior should look similar. Now, separate policy and implementation must be embedded in the programs. What the method does and how it does must be clearly specified. Right now, reusability here reusability using inheritance is basically a technique. Now the reusability is achieved using inheritance as well as using subroutines, and subroutines is nothing but the methods. You reuse the behavior from the existing classes, and factoring is basically terminology which is used when we derive the common part of the methods, and we'll fetch from that methods and we'll write our own code. So factoring is extracting the common code from the separate methods. And delegation here means assigning the responsibility to the another object instead of duplicating the logics. Now, encapsulating the external code, wrapping the third party or the system code inside your own classes. I'll be discussing the all of this in the further slides. Encapsulation is one of the most important pillar of the object-oriented style. So coming to the extensibility. Extensibility means ability to add the new features without breaking the existing code. So in the object-oriented programming styles, it supports extensibility, which includes encapsulating the classes, hiding the data structures to prevent the external dependencies, avoid traversing multiple object links, which creates tight coupling, and avoid typecasting because it breaks the polymorphisms, right? And distinguishing the public and private operations. So if our system is extensible, the future changes becomes enhancements, not the headaches for the programmer. Now coming to the next, robustness. Robustness refers to how well the program handles the error and unexpected situations which occurs while developing the program. For an example, like in order to make the system robust, we must follow certain kind of guidelines, like to protect against the user errors and the system level errors. Then the programming bugs must be handled gracefully. Then avoid the premature optimizations. So what does that mean is, first make the programs correct. Now then always make the valid input arguments. This is the very important. And the important is the program which is capable enough for debugging and performance monitoring. And a robust program fails gracefully, not the catastrophically. Right. Now moving to the features of the OOPS. Now what the features of the OOPS says is, first one is object oriented programming language depends upon the encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance, polymorphism and dynamic binding. So the encapsulation, basically everyone knows about what is encapsulation. It is nothing but the binding of the data members and the member function into the single unit. And what that unit is called is, for example, it is called as classes. So encapsulation is basically bundling together the member functions and the attributes in order to in a single unit, right? And what is the use of binding that particular members functions and the data attributes is in order to restricting the direct access into the that functions and the attributes. Now coming to the abstraction, the only essential features are exposed and the internal details are hidden. This is a very important concept, because in the real programming, when we are dealing with the real projects, so abstractions plays a very key important role in the programming developments. Now coming to the inheritance, so a child class acquires what is the what all the properties of the parent class is, and this inheritance gives access to the reusability. We can access the previously written code, and we can extend its features into the child methods which we want to use it. Now coming to the polymorphisms, so same interface, different behavior, achieved through the overloading or overriding. Right. Now coming to the dynamic binding, method calls are resolved at the runtime, enabling the fixable behavior. So, right, dynamic binding is method calls will be resolved at the runtimes. Right. Now there is two type of binding: static time binding and the dynamic binding. So static time binding is there, the once the instructions address is allocated, then that address cannot be changed at the runtime, but it is not the case in the dynamic binding. So moving with the message passing is nothing but the object communicate via the method calls. There are certain method calls which is done within the objects, so they communicate with each other in order to execute the entire code or the programs. Coming to the reusability, existing classes and libraries are used. These are called as the code which is again and again used. For example, the libraries reduce the redundant code, right? So now coming to the modularity. Modularity means dividing the system in smaller components of the modules. The system is divided and that modules are independent, like they are manageable units. So it is the task of the programmers how logically they divide that into the module. Now coming to the extensibility, the new features can be added without modifying the existing code. And the last one is the concurrency, that suppose multiple threads and the processes executing simultaneously. Right. Now coming to the encapsulations. So encapsulation is basically the backbone of the object-oriented programming language. The reason why I'm saying is because it ensures the data security. Once the data is binded, in order to get it basically restricts the one to access that data. In object-oriented programming languages, there is something called access modifiers that basically restricts the particular individual in order to what kind of data that can access and what kind of accessibility they have to certain kind of methods and the attributes. Encapsulation also reduce the complexities. Now coming to the example, here we can see that there is a class called students, and there are members called the string name salary, and there is method called the set student name. And this method is a public method, and everything is encapsulated into the single unit which is called as a student class, right? Now moving to the topic which is called as an abstractions. So it focuses on the what an object does, not how it does. So it simplifies the system design by hiding the complexity and allowing the developers to work at the high level without worrying about what the internal implementation looks like. Like for example, here we can see there is a student class. There is one method called as a start test, and that method is a public method, right? And there is another method which is called as a private method. So the public method, the details of the student is can be visible to one and all who is having the access to this class, and the another one is the private, and it is the method which is having the restricted access. So everyone will not be able to see these particular implementations. So this is the way in which this is the techniques which are used in the real world project developments in the software engineering in order to develop the scalable and the highly reusable code which is used in the further programming as the project flows in the development stages. Yeah, thank you.